Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another Thursday night Scrap Your Scraps. Tonight I'm going to do a houseware project or a house decor project. I drink a ton of coffee, so I buy coffee in bulk, but the big bulk boxes don't fit into my cupboards. And so I tend to hang on to these little guys whenever I buy a little guy, and sometimes I purposely buy it because these get thrown out by accident. So what I'm trying to do is upscale this a little bit so that when people go in the cupboard and they see this empty, they're not going to toss it in the garbage because it actually looks like something that is proper storage that probably should stay in the cupboard even when it's empty inside, because I just haven't gotten around to filling it. So I'm going to cover this, and the first thing I'm going to do is give myself a little 3D drawing of what this is. Doesn't have to be to scale, just, you know, something that where I can put my measurements. So I am going to measure the box across. The long way is 7 3/8. So we've got 7 3/8 here. And then we have 3 3/4 inches here. Oops. Hold on a second. 3/4 inches. Just want to double check this. 7 3/8. Yep. Okay. And this measurement going up is going to be, it says 5 5/8 here. So we're going to put 5 5/8. And this measurement across the back is going to be the same as that one. So that's 3 1/4, 3 3/4. Sorry, I got a 1 in there for some reason. 3 3/4. And what other measurement do I need? Maybe this measurement here, just to make sure we're getting everything covered up. And that is 4 3/8. 4 3/8. Okay. What else do I need? Oh, I probably need this measurement here. So let's see. That measurement is 3 3/4. There we go. Okay. All right, so this measurement is the same all the way across there. This measurement is the same as here and here. This measurement we need, which is the same over here. This is the whole box, and that's just the top part. Okay, so because this measurement is just under 6, I'm going to cut my 12 by 12 paper into a 6-inch piece. So I have that 6-inch piece here. This is the paper I'm using. Here is the original 12 by 12. And I'm just going to cut this one to 6 inches. Now this has a bit of glue on it. I'm not going to worry too much about it now. I may or I may not see it on the bottom, don't know. So we have a full 6 inches across. I want it to fold over the top and bottom. And we have 5/8 of an inch. All right, so if we look at our ruler, 5/8 of an inch, about half of that is 5/16 of an inch, maybe? Yeah, 5/16 of an inch. So I'm going to do some scoring at 5/16 of an inch. And I'm going to have to measure that back because I can't really see what's going on here. So if this is 6 inches, well, it's a bit short, but I guess that paper wasn't quite 6 inches. Okay, I'm moving 5/16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/16 is where we're at. And I've got my score blade in my machine, or you can have a different score blade, whatever. So I'm just popping that in the machine. And I'm not going to press too hard because I don't want it to go through the paper, but I'm just going to give it a bit of a nudge. So I've got like a quarter of the 3/8 of an inch, or 5/16 of an inch is there. And now I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. So that's almost an inch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8 of an inch. And just give it a little push because I just want to help it get over that edge. So if I have measured this correctly, I should see that if I do my folds, let's do the folds first. So we're folding that 5/16 of an inch across. And now we're going to fold up the bottom edge. And with any luck, when I put this in there, it's a little off. Okay, I think this edge is a bit too big. So let's just go and fix that. It's not an exact science, so I'm going to bring that down 1/8 of an inch because it appears to be 1/8 of an inch different. And it's on the bottom, so I won't notice it as much, which is fine. It's on the side that has a little bit of tape on it or glue on it from the pad of paper that I took the paper off of. So there we go. Now that should work. Beautiful. Okay, so I am going to glue this with the edge just about the same amount over, just a little bit over. Okay, I actually want to try to make this go all the way around the front and the side, so I can even, I've got quite a bit there, so I can probably give it a good 1/4 of an inch for gluing. All right, so I'm going to take my glue. Oh, my glue went all over my scissors. I'll deal with that after. Oh, and on my project, don't have your glue lying sideways on your projects. So I'm just going to make sure I get these edges. So I am making sure I have the yucky side down, and I'm going to give myself about a 1/4 of an inch. There we go. And I'm placing this, oops, watch my head, right in there, pressing down. I'll do my edges in a minute. There we go. Make sure it's nicely pressed down. And then I'm going to do my side. Again, making sure all the parts have glue. A little bit of an overhang here, so it won't go over easily. So I'm just cutting that off so it doesn't become a problem. And just maybe a little more. There we go. And I'm going to fold up, making sure that lines up. Making sure I give a little crease at the side there. It looks wonky at the moment, but it'll all come together. And then I'm going to go in and push that down. Make sure I get that crease happening at the edge there. There we go. All right, so now I've got my one side glued. Before I start trimming things, or gluing things, I'm going to trim at the corner here, because we want to make sure it goes around the corner. So I'm going to have one piece that will go up and under, and I have to decide how I want that to look. So I'm going to have this piece come down and this piece go over. I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put a little glue on this little piece here, and I'm going to fold that down at the fold line. so it stays down and has a nice finish on that edge. It's not a white paper finish. And then I'm going to glue this top section down in there and cross the two pieces over so you don't see any of the white paper there. My camera isn't focusing, but you get the idea. Okay, and I'm going to do the same at the bottom. I'm going to put a little bit of glue here, and I'm going to fold that up. So that it folds all nicely in. So now that I've done that trimming, oops, I want to do the other two edges. So here I need to take a snip, because when I fold this edge over, I need to be able to make sure that it's not going to interfere with the front. So I'm gluing right to the edge and a little bit on that tip of that paper, folding it over, folding it down, making it nice and tight, holding it for a second. This is why you want to use quick dry glue. Rubbing it along, making sure it's doing its thing properly. Staying glued. There we go. Just takes a second. And now we're going to do the bottom. Same thing. Oh, my dog has popped through the door. Hello, Maya. We're going to glue down this edge. What happened there? Oh, it'll work out. All right, so now we're going to glue down this edge, which is going all the way along. Making sure that gets glued down good. It's a smaller edge. So we're going to hold it for a minute. Hi, puppy, you have to go. Go see Jimmy. I will get my dog out of the room in a moment. We're in a gluing situation here. And this little piece here just needs a daub to stay over too. And if you notice there's some buckling, you might want to just put a little more glue in there. There we go. I didn't have enough glue. It's good to get it right to the edge. There we go. All right. That little piece needs to stay down, and now we're ready to flip this over. So we're going to glue this down. And make sure we have some on the edges there. Folding it over. Woo! Make sure you don't press too hard because your box is lightweight. You want to make sure we get that corner nice and rounded so that it goes over the edge and stays nice and flat. There we go. Holding those ends. There we go. All right. Okay. So we have almost this entire side done. We're now just going to do this, and I'm going to trim in to this corner. So I make sure that I have a nice edge, and I'm going to glue along this edge. I'm less worried about the bottom, but you know, you should do a nice job of everything. There we go. Especially if you want it to last and look good. We're just going to keep that glued down. There we go. and push that over the edge and hold it. Can't remember if I put glue there or not. Yep, there seems to be glue there. So there we go. Just hold it for a minute. And I'm going to put some glue underneath this so it stays nice and closed for when I fold everything over. It gives a nice edge. So when it closes, we have that nice edge with no white paper. And we need to give it a fold. But before I think I do that, I'm going to cut along the edge here. And I'm not going to cut close right up to the edge. I'm going to cut a little bit beyond the edge, because that is going to give me, go in here, it's going to give me a little bit to wrap over on this side. I don't need a lot, maybe 1/4 of an inch. So that's what I'm gearing towards, 1/4 of an inch. And don't throw this away, it's perfectly good scrap paper, as I am the queen of scraps. I want to make that point, and I'm just going to cut right into the centers. And now I can glue this down. I like doing sketchy glue. I like making sure there's like a little dot in the corners to make sure it goes over nicely. And we're going to fold that over and hold that down while it gets glued. There we go. All right, there we go. So now we have more or less the shape that we're looking for. I've cut in the corner here. I'm also going to cut in the corner here. And now I'm just going to put, this is a rounded curve on this one. So I'm going to put 2 nicks in the paper so that it rounds nicely. So I'm going to take my scissors, and at about the 2/3 of the space, it's just eyeballing it. I'm going to make 2 little cuts, so when I push it down, it's going to round nicely. Get the glue on it all the way to the edge that I cut. And I'm going to start with the middle one, push that down and hold it. So I've got that middle notch happening. Then I'm going to go to the side, make sure I go down as close as I can to the other one. And it's a little off because if you remember, I had extra paper on that side. It doesn't want to cooperate as much. I could have maybe struggled with that a little bit more. And this one matches perfectly. So there we go. So this is the side that had the extra paper, and I probably didn't go down far enough. Should have cut beyond the back, in the back. But that's your edge. That would be how you would do your rounded edge. And this doesn't seem to want to be closed. So let me put a little glue on there again. Maybe it dried out. This quick dry glue really dries quickly. All right. There we go. All right, and now I have the side to do. Same idea. I'm going to cut into the corner. So I have a good fold over. This has already been cut. And again, it has an arc. So I'm going to do a 2/3 cut and a 1/3 cut. So we have 1, 2, 3 pieces. I'm going to start with my middle piece. And maybe I'll just glue it as I do it. And I'm going to push that middle piece down. There we go. Hang on to it. Okay, that looks good. And I'm going to glue this other piece now. Make sure you get those corners. That's the important thing. And that lined up beautifully. And now I can do this top piece. Push that in. There we go. And this little piece I'm just going to tuck under so we don't have any white edges of paper showing. And there you have your edge. Okay, so now we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Oops, we need to do this little edge too. Pop that in there. There we go. Now, if you were fussy, you could put a panel in there, trace the side and put a panel inside to cover up your edges. But because it's sitting high on a shelf for me, I'm not going to see that. So I'm not going to worry about that. All right, so now I have another paper. And again, I'm just going to make sure that So I want to do a double edge on here so that I don't get that white paper look. Whoops, sorry. That white paper look. So we'll do that after. But we first have to, okay, just got to make sure that that's glued in. Didn't have enough glue on there. There we go. All right. Hold it for a second. There we go. And we're all good. Okay, so on this paper, we're going to do that same thing. We're going to make sure that it folds over. We don't actually, oh, we have to have it folding over the back. So we have to have enough that's going to take us all the way around. Wrong side. All right. And we're going to want it to fold a bit on here. So let me just get that fold line in there. So on one end, the end that we're going to have this butt up against the other side, we're going to roll that end. So I need to score that. And let's see, I'm going to score that at about 1/4 of an inch. That edge isn't great. So 1/4 of an inch. And very lightly, so we don't worry about and this is going to get folded over. And I'm going to actually glue that right now because that's going to go right butted up against the other paper. And we just want that whole thing to lie flat. So on one edge of that the other 6-inch paper, we're just going to put that fold in there. So this isn't even like doing measuring, we're just kind of eyeballing and putting it on there. So now this is going to butt up to that and have a nice finished edge, so it's not a white edge. So this is what the difference is. So here you can see the white edge of the paper. Here you can't. It's much more finished looking. So now the other thing we have to do is figure out where the fold is going to go. So make sure your paper sits down flat. And this fold should be about, what did we say? 3 3/4 inches. Let's see if that's the case. 3 3/4 inches. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So I'm just going to give it 1/8 of an inch more to give it some leeway. And we're gonna lightly fold that paper over so you don't get a break. And let's see how that looks. That looks beautiful. All right, there we go. So that's working. And now at 7 3/8 inch, we're going to do the other side. So opening this up from this fold at 7 3/8 inches, we are now going to do another fold line because our front of our box is done, right? So let's just check our measurements, make sure everything is lining up and everything is looking really good. Okay. And those measurements, just to refresh, this one I just took a 3/8 of an inch and folded it over to get a finished edge. This measurement from this edge to this edge is actually this edge to this edge, which are both the same. So they're 3 3/4. And then 7/8 is the long side of the box. So I did a fold to get our edge that we're going to glue down for this side of the box because we already have the front done. We don't need to do the front again. All right, and that's how we get an entire box mostly out of one paper. So I am going to now glue this down because I dry fitted everything and it looks like it's all going to work. Make sure you get those edges. There we go. Fold it over. And we know it's too tall up here because we've got that scoop. But we just want to get the sides done so when we're gluing the sides, everything lines up beautifully. All right, so now we need to have the 5 5/8, and we need to do a bit of alignment across the top here, and of course underneath the box. So 5 5/8 from 6. So 5 5/8. 5 5/8 from 6 is 3/4. So that's 1, 2, 3/16 of an inch at the top and bottom. So let's pull this out. We are going to line up our paper at 6 inches, and then we're going to go back 1, 2, 3/16 of an inch, and we're going to score at that point. Okay, then we're going to flip it over, start at 6 inches again, and go back 1, 2, 3/16 of an inch, and we're going to score again. Whoops, make sure you're scoring properly. There we go. So we have our fold lines for the top and the bottom, but these guys are going to be glued onto the box and over the box. All right. So we're just going to fold it so those folds are already there. We don't have to worry about folding them afterwards. All right, there we go. So we have both our glue sides that go under the box. Now, I'm going to start at the front and align the front edge with the front of the box, just a little bit under. Okay, like so. And then we're going to glue it on that way. So we need glue everywhere along that edge. We need it even on the flap. More there, but it's going to go around that corner, so I'm not so worried about it. All right, so now here's where I line it up, and I make sure that my bottom fold is going to fit under, and I line it up ever so slightly back, just a tiny bit back from the front edge. And I make sure my fold is going straight, because sometimes the boxes aren't exactly perfectly straight. There you go. So what's happening here is the fold on the original box is slightly off. It's not square, but that's okay because I've been able to make sure it lines up at the top, right? And then if it's lower at the bottom, we're not going to see that anyway because everything will be covered beautifully. Alrighty, so this is now going to go on the back. Again, we have our folded edge. Our folded edge is going to come right there. So having measurements is important because it gives you a place to start. If you find like these boxes are produced willy-nilly, they're not meant to be absolutely perfect, and nobody cares in a coffee box. So you want to have the ability to sort of adjust. So it's better to have more and trim than it is to have not enough. In this one, we want to make sure that we have enough to tuck under on both sides. Yep, there we go. And there we are. Okay, so we're all done. Now we just have to do the top.